title is exactly what it says on the tin. I rant about opinions that have some popularity or I see constantly time and time again, whilst trying to remain somewhat civil. This content is a lazy form of content, meaning these videos have little to no research put in the topics that they cover, thus they should not be used for any objective reason. These videos are nothing more of an opinion, and therefore I do not hate the people with those opinions, but the opinion itself. Do not harass others for having different opinions. You can debate in the comments, but please try to keep it civil. You got that? Now let's get into the video.
Hi there, welcome to RAOISFOTI episode 7, also known as Ranting About Opinions I See Floating on the Internet, episode 7. In today's episode, I'm going to be ranting about gatekeeping, more specifically, gatekeepers. You're probably thinking, why am I ranting about gatekeepers? Aren't gatekeepers already unpopular anyways? Like, aren't you just dunking on people that people already hate? You're not doing anything new here. Well, RAOISFOTI isn't about ranting about opinions that are unpopular, it's ranting about opinions I see floating on the internet, as you can see. The series is essentially about any opinion that I see that's relatively popular or has some traction that I see commonly time and time again, to the point that I'll rant about it, which is probably in the disclaimer, so why am I repeating it? Anyways, moving on. At least more commonly, I've been seeing on the internet people saying that gatekeeping is a good thing, or people saying that gatekeeping is okay, or it's important that you gatekeep your fandoms from people that are trying to change it. And I see this take flowing around quite a lot, actually. It's absurd how many times I've seen this take flowing around, especially on Twitter sometimes, especially within the anime fandom. And the anime fandom usually says this as a reaction to some 16-year-old having some really dumb hot take on My Hero Academia or something. I don't know, something with the anime fandom and the My Hero Academia fandom just not liking each other. It's a fun thing. Gatekeeping is the act of deciding whether or not a certain person does not have access or rights to claim a community or identity, and it's usually seen as a bad thing. So for example, I could say you're not a fan of RWBY because you haven't bought any RWBY merchandise, so therefore you're not a real fan. Keep in mind, it doesn't usually play like this out in real life. A very real scenario in the real world would be, imagine just saying, I like to play Skyrim, and the person you're talking to then starts trying to test you by asking you random questions. And they start asking you, oh yeah, do you know about this random NPC here who probably dies very quickly that you don't remember? And if you manage to answer all of their weird questions, you're accepted, and if you fail, you aren't part of the group and you're just a poser trying to be cool. Personally, to me, it's such a weird thing to do, to put someone on the spot like that, especially because it's such a weird thing to do. It's not like, oh yes, I'm now going to test you on this. Hope you've done your homework. The weird thing is, and what I've seen, most people who try and ask you questions to try and test you, they're trying to get you to answer the most obscure things, which most people probably wouldn't know anyways. You know, if someone likes a thing, then they like the thing. Why are you trying to decide whether or not they like a thing? You, as a person, shouldn't get to decide whether or not someone likes something. And if they're lying, why does it matter to you so much? Because, to me, it comes across as you're trying to establish as if you're better than them in some sort of way. Because there's no reason you'd ask such an obscure question that you know, and that the other person doesn't know, if not to showcase that you're better than them. It's such a weird ego problem. Personally, to me, gatekeeping is useless because all it does, it makes you a very unkind person to be around, and it makes you so unfriendly. And you don't make friends that way. It's just like you're just shutting people out for no reason. It's not that you didn't vibe with this person, it's that they couldn't answer your obscure question that they didn't know and weren't expecting to have been asked beforehand. Also, here's a quick hot take. Most musical genres can work in any film as a score, you're just way too accustomed to large orchestral scores. Another example I've seen is with anime fans calling people who watch anime dubs not anime fans. It really doesn't matter how they consume the anime, and I get it, dub changes can be very annoying, and I can understand why people may not like people who watch dubs because they might spout something that's not necessarily true because it was said in the dub but not actually said, so they'll have different meanings of things. But that's not really their fault, especially because they can either outright change the tone or be incorrectly translated. You should be able to allow people to consume the media the way they want to be able to consume it. One of the weirdest things is this one argument I've seen for gatekeeping, which was shown in this one viral tweet. If you've seen the Unverified podcast, I think I want to say episode 24 or 20, one of the episodes I wasn't in, basically. And this dude is basically essentially gatekeeping anime because they didn't watch all these certain types of anime. In the replies of that tweet, I've seen people argue that gatekeeping is actually good. Even the original poster was even arguing that gatekeeping was good. And their argument was essentially, it prevents the fandom from changing, and it apparently keeps out narcissists and people looking to exploit the fandom for financial gain. The problem I have with this is because this makes gatekeeping an incredibly big ego problem, because then people start increasing the requirements to even be let in. Because in this tweet, this person essentially excludes quite a lot of anime. They claim that you're not a real anime fan if you watch Dragon Ball, Naruto, One Piece, I think Hunter x Hunter, My Hero Academia. That's a lot of anime to watch, to be honest. I feel like you're an anime fan at that point. I don't think you get to decide what anime, what makes someone not an anime fan because they just watch shonen. I don't know. That to me is really strange to me because that's a lot of anime to watch, and I don't get how that doesn't make them an anime fan. I feel like if you watch that amount of anime, you're probably an anime fan. And to me, the reason why this is a big ego problem is because the requirements, you've increased them. It's almost as if you don't like those anime. And because you've specifically suggested what kind of anime doesn't make someone an anime fan, it kind of suggests that, oh, the anime you like is better than anime that they like, which means you think yourself as better than those people because they watch that anime, and therefore you're trying to distance yourself from them by claiming that you're the anime fan and they're not. And I find this weird because this argument of protecting it from narcissists and people looking to exploit for financial gain and to prevent fandom from changing, it's really strange. So the goal you're trying to gain here is to essentially depict yourself as an unlikable person to prevent people from wanting to make money out of it. It's really strange, especially because that YouTubers exist. YouTubers make money from just talking about anime, and somebody being a bit presumptuous there, but I've been on the internet long enough to kind of guess how people behave sometimes. And I've just observed people just seeing how they react to anime YouTubers, and they're still making money. The weird thing is, there are narcissists who happen to like the same things as you. You can't really gatekeep them, and I'm pretty sure you're not going to be able to gatekeep them. It's really weird, because there's no way you're really gonna gatekeep a narcissist, because narcissists don't really care. People who want to exploit the fandom, they could just as easily appeal to you by being an insufferable git. There's a very good example of this. There's tons of YouTube channels just creating fake outrage for things that never really needed outrage to begin with. Another thing I've noticed with gatekeeping entirely is that for some reason it's usually targeted at minority groups for some weird reason, most notably women, and I'm not sure why. No, I understand why, but I don't understand why you'd need to do so. I think one of the more old versions of gatekeeping was gamers gatekeeping women from playing video games. Like, I think it says a lot about your mentality. Whenever you see a woman playing a video game, you immediately think she's doing it to impress men. And I've always found this idea really weird, even as a kid, because it's like, women don't exist to impress dudes. I don't get it. It's kind of weird that, like, 10 years ago, like 15 years ago, gamers spent all this time trying to gatekeep women in order to preserve the fandom, yet most of the fandoms will harbor racist, misogynists, and creeps. It's really bizarre. And also, another thing is, gatekeeping will just cause others to create their own spaces, making the community really unnecessarily split and divided for literally no reason, and will end up fostering toxicity when there didn't need to be. And don't get me wrong, I understand the protectionist aspect to gatekeeping, which is why I don't really have a problem with it when it comes to like ethnic traditions, in the sense that the people that were part of that tradition aren't credited or recognized for their creation in the culture they create. To be fair, it does happen a lot. But when it comes to fandoms, it's just dumb. Like, what are you actually protecting? People enjoying things? Because it doesn't actually solve the issue that was there in the first place. You don't really solve the issue, you're just stopping people from enjoying something. And even when it comes to like anime, most of the people who are trying to gatekeep anime aren't even Japanese. The Japanese didn't like gatekeep anime from the West. They were fully readily available to just, you know, ship their anime over to the West. And keep in mind, the Western audience doesn't really have that much effect on the Japanese audiences. And it's interesting how the Western audience, how some Western fans of anime want to gatekeep anime from Western people, even though they themselves don't really have any authority to gatekeep themselves. So why are you even bothering in the first place? Which to me implies it's an ego thing because you think you have the authority to gatekeep people. Personally, I don't see why you've put that on yourself. I've also seen the argument that like people tend to gatekeep because they think, oh, their fandom is going to be ruined, and it's like, what do you mean? And this is coming from the Western audience who knows they don't have an effect on the Japanese audience, let's say in the hypothetical that the Western audience becomes a bit bigger and has more effect on anime studios than the Japanese audience does. When an anime is unpopular, they're just not gonna make more of it. Like, that's kind of how companies work. They're just gonna make more of what's popular rather than what's unpopular. People have compared this issue to the comic book industry, in which the comic book industry is doing worse than manga apparently. According to the gatekeepers, this is because the comic book fandom allowed the mainstream audience to get into comic books, and therefore they ruined the community because comic books ended up becoming worse off. Personally, if there's one reason why the comic book industry isn't doing very well, it's because in order to get into the comic book industry, you have to traverse through multiple series, transverse through multiple crossovers, spin-off series, to even understand what's going on. And sometimes you don't even know where to start because sometimes they have multiple authors. And another issue with the comic book industry is that they don't really know when to end off a series. Like, there is no reason why a series that started in the 1960s should still be going on right now. I say this as if I'm not watching One Piece. Personally, to me, gatekeeping seems to stem from this want to protect this special thing, otherwise you aren't seen as special as anyone else. It's like someone hating their favorite artist, now they're mainstream. And to be fair, I get this sometimes, where I like some things less, or I'll sing the song less, because it's mainstream. Like, I can listen to a really good song in it, but if it's mainstream, I'm probably going to sing it less, probably because I'm going to hear other people singing it, and it's going to become just as annoying if I start joining in on it, and it's going to sound annoying to other people. I want to contribute to that irritation sometimes. And also, it's just like, hey, it's kind of cool. There's this song that people don't know about that's really cool, and if I show it to them, they're going to know about it through me. And to me, I find it interesting that way, usually, but I'm not too serious with it. If you're a gatekeeper, you still haven't lost that special factor to yourself anyways, because just by liking this thing, you're going above and beyond to collect the most mundane information, and that makes you special. And it's not like that has any value to anyone else. I remember seeing these memes back in 2011 mocking girls pose with controllers, going, she hasn't even turned it on. It's a posed picture. No one turns their controllers on for a posed picture. Like, I did the same thing in 2010. It's funny how these same types of comments ended up happening when TikTok launched, even though it was for a dumb limb sync video, not to actually showcase their gaming skills. I find gatekeeping to be this weird way of protecting something that doesn't really need protecting. It's this really weird anxiousness over something that you enjoy that's not really going to change all that much. I don't know. Personally, I don't see anime changing much anytime soon, really. I want to hash. Personally, I think people who gatekeep make the fandom worse. You make the fandom worse, you make it hostile, and you make yourselves look hostile. It makes you seem like you're not a well-adjusted person to normal society. To me, it seems strange that acting in such a hostile manner about just cartoons. It's just cartoons, my guy. Some things aren't that deep. So yeah, that's it for this RAOISFOTI, or ranting about opinions I see floating on the internet. Comment, like, subscribe, leave some hate comments, and remember that I don't know you at all.